Long ago, in the walled city of Zaria, the palace of Emir Suleiman stood like a tall mountain of red clay and stones. Its walls rose against the desert winds, guarding secrets of love, power, and betrayal. To serve within its gates was an honor, but to fall in love within its walls was a crime. The palace was the heart of Zaria, its towers crowned with crescents of gold, its courtyards alive with the sound of drummers, praise singers, and the scent of burning incense. The emir's word was law, his throne the pillar of tradition. But in the shadows of that mighty court, a story was being written. A story not of war or power, but of love, forbidden love. Kabir was no warrior, he was no prince, he was a man of ink and paper. Each morning, before the sun climbed high over Zaria's wall, Kabir walked through the great palace gates. His robes were plain cotton, dyed deep blue with indigo, his sandals worn from years of use. He carried scrolls beneath his arm and an inkwell tied to his waist. His duty was simple: to record the decrees of the emir, to copy contracts, and to keep the words of Zaria alive. His handwriting was said to flow like water, his letters dancing across parchment with elegance. Yet behind his calm face, Kabir carried silence. He was an orphan raised by distant relatives in a small village before his gift with writing brought him to the palace. The world of nobles was not his world. He knew his place, or at least he thought he did. When the courtiers laughed and feasted, Kabir sat quietly in his corner, dipping his reed pen in ink, listening to words not meant for him. He lived in shadows, unnoticed. But his heart, oh, his heart, longed for something beyond the ink. At night, when the palace fell silent and the moon rose over the minarets, Kabir would sit by the gardens and whisper to himself, "Will my life be nothing more than ink on a page? Will no soul ever see me, not for the words I write, but for the man I am?" Amina was the emir's only daughter, the jewel of his house. Her beauty was whispered about across the Hausa lands. Skin smooth as desert clay after the rains, eyes dark and deep as the Kogin Kaduna River, hair hidden beneath veils, embroidered with gold thread. But beyond her beauty was her spirit, fierce, intelligent, curious. Every morning, Amina was dressed in flowing Ankara wrappers of crimson and emerald, her arms heavy with jingling gold bangles, her fingers often painted with hennas, carried the grace of one born to rule. But despite her wealth, Amina carried a loneliness the palace wall could not hide. She was expected to be perfect, the daughter of the emir, untouchable, the symbol of tradition. Every step she took was watched. Every word was measured. She longed to laugh freely, to run barefoot through the sands, to speak without fear of gossip. Is this life mine? She often wondered. Or is it a prison made of silk and gold? And though many princes and nobles came to seek her hand, none stirred her heart. She wanted love, true love, not alliances made in the name of power. But in the palace of Zaria, love was the most dangerous desire of all. It was on a golden evening that their words first touched. The sun was setting, painting the palace walls in amber and fire. Kabir was in the courtyard, carrying scrolls to the council chamber. His eyes were fixed on the ground, as always, carefully, never to meet the gaze of nobles. And then he looked up. For a single breath, his eyes met hers. Amina was standing by the balcony, veiled in silk, her attendants fanning her with peacock feathers. Her laughter, soft, musical, floated across the courtyard. But when her gaze met Kabir's, her laughter stopped. It was only a heartbeat, a glance, but in that heartbeat, the world shifted. Kabir quickly lowered his eyes, his heart racing. What foolishness is this? He whispered to himself. The Emir's daughter? Impossible, dangerous. And yet, his heart, once quiet, had awakened. That night, as he copied royal decrees by lamplight, his hands trembled between the lines of official words. He scribed verses of longing, poetry that could never be read. She is the moon, and I am the desert sand, yet still the sand longs for her light. The palace gardens were unlike any other place in Zaria. Tall date palms stretched to the sky, their fronts whispering secrets to the wind. Fragrant hibiscus and bougainvillea lined the walkways, while fountains gurgled with cool water. Only the royal family and their closest attendants could enter. It was there one quiet evening that fate drew Kabir and Amina together again. Kabir had been summoned to deliver a copy of a decree to the Emir's steward. As he crossed the gardens, he paused to rest by a stone bench near the fountain. The setting sun painted the water gold, and then a soft voice behind him. You are Kabir the scribe, are you not? Kabir froze. His throat went dry. No royal had ever spoken to him directly, let alone the Emir's daughter. He bowed deeply, eyes on the ground. Yes, my princess, forgive me if I have offended by sitting here. I will leave at once. But Amina only smiled, her veil shifting gently to the evening breeze. Stay, tell me, do you always bow so deeply? You cannot see the world around you. Kabir's heart tumbled in his chest. Slowly he lifted his eyes. Her gaze was steady, filled with curiosity. For the first time they spoke. At first it was simple. About the weather, about poetry, about the call of the muezzin that echoed from the minarets. But soon, words spilled like water from a broken clay pot, night after night. Kabir found excuses to wander near the gardens, and Amina found reasons to linger there. Beneath the moonlight, he recited poetries to her he had written, his voice trembling. She listened, her eyes glowing like lanterns. You are the star I cannot touch, Kabir whispered once, his voice barely more than breath. And you, Amina replied softly, are the ink that writes upon my heart. But love in shadows cannot remain hidden forever. Among Amina's attendants was Safia, a young woman with eyes sharp as daggers. She had grown up in the palace, always dreaming of rising above her station, and in Kabir she had seen her chance. Safia admired him from afar, the quiet dignity with which he wrote, the way his words carried beauty. She believed that if she could win his heart, she too could escape the life of a servant. But then she saw the way Kabir's eyes softened when he looked at Amina. She noticed the secret smiles, the stolen moments. Jealousy burned in her like fire. The princess has everything, Safia thought bitterly. Gold, silk, a father who rules Zaria. And now she wants Kabir too? No, I will not allow it. So she watched, she listened, she followed quietly, her barefoot silent against the marble floors. Each whispered word between Kabir and Amina was a knife in her heart and a weapon in her hand. the city of Zaria burst into celebration. The annual festival of fire had come. A night when drums thundered, dancers spun in cycles of flame, and the sky glowed with lanterns. Kabir walked among the people, but his heart belonged to the palace gardens where Amina awaited him. She had slipped away from the feast, her veil shimmering under the lantern lights. Together they stood at the edge of the fountain, the sounds of celebration distant. Do you not fear, Kabir, if my father discovers this? Every heartbeat with you is worth more than a life without you, Kabir replied. Their hands brushed, a touch that set the night ablaze. For a fleeting moment, the world was only theirs. But far away, hidden behind the palms, Safia watched with narrowed eye. Her lips curled into a smile that was not kind. Let them believe in their foolish love, she thought. Soon, the whole palace will know. Safia could no longer contain the storm in her chest. Each night, she watched Kabir and Amina beneath the moonlight. Her jealousy hardened into hatred. But Safia was not reckless. She knew the Emir's anger was like fire. Once unleashed, it spared no one. So she chose her moment carefully. One evening, she knelt before Emir Suleiman in the great hall, where the walls were hung with crimson tapestries and the air thick with incense. Her voice trembled with false loyalty. My lord, forgive me, but I cannot keep silent anymore. Shadows are moving in your courtyard. Your daughter, Princess Amina, she had given her heart where it does not belong. The Emir's sharp eye darkened. Speak clearly, Safia. Whose name do you dare tie to my daughter? Safia bowed low, savoring the moment. Kabir the scribe. The hall fell silent. The Emir's hand clenched the arm of his throne. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the hiss of oil lamps. A servant dares to touch the honor of my daughter? His voice thundered through the chamber. The courtiers shifted uneasily, but none dared speak. Safia lowered her eyes, hiding the wicked smile tugging at her lips. The Emir's wrath had been awakened. Days later, the palace erupted with news. Trumpeters stood at the gates, their horns blaring across Zaria. Drummers beat the talking drum, and heralds shouted to the crowds, Hear ye, hear ye! By decree of Emir Suleiman, the jewel of Zaria, Princess Amina, shall be given in marriage to Prince Idris of Kano, a union of strength, honor, and tradition. The people cheered, but within the palace walls, Amina's world shattered. She sat in her chamber, veiled and silent, while attendants adorned her with beads and silk in preparation for her betrothal feast. Tears swelled in her eyes, hidden beneath her lashes. When she was finally alone, she pressed her hands against her chest and whispered, Oh Kabir, they are chaining me with gold. Kabir too heard the announcement. He was in the scriptorium, his hands blackened with ink. The words reached him like arrows. His quill fell from his fingers, staining the parchment with blots of sorrows. A prince, Kabir whispered. She will be given to a prince, and I am nothing but ink and dust. That night, Kabir wandered the palace gardens like a ghost, but Amina did not come. Guards now surrounded her quarters. The fountain that once heard their laughter now echoed with silence. But fate was not yet done with them. One last time, Kabir and Amina found each other. It was dangerous, reckless, but love cannot be silenced so easily. Amina slipped away from her chamber, under the cover of the night, her veil dark, her feet silent against the marble. She found Kabir waiting in the shadows of the garden, his eyes hollow with despair. "Amina, is this the last time?" Kabir asked. "If the world will not allow our love, then let us steal what moments we can," Amina replied. They embraced, clinging to each other as if the night itself might shatter. But Safia's betrayal was not yet complete. She had followed them once again, and this time she did not hide. With a triumphant cry, she summoned the palace guards. "Here they are, here they are." "The scribe defiles the honor of the Emir's bloodline," Safia shouted. Torches flared, steel clashed. Guards stormed into the garden, their spears glinting under the moonlight. Kabir pulled Amina behind him, his heart pounding. "Run, my princess." But there was no escape. Rough hands seized Kabir, dragging him to the ground. Amina screamed, struggling against the guards who pulled her away. "Father will not kill you. He cannot. I will not let him," Amina cried out. Kabir's voice was cracked as they dragged him towards the dungeon. "Do not weep for me, Amina. If I must die, let it be known I loved you with all the breath in my body." And then the iron doors closed behind him, sealing their love in darkness. The dungeon of the palace was cold, damp, and unforgiving. Chains rattled whenever Kabir shifted, his wrist bruised from the iron. At dawn, guards dragged him before the Emir's council. The great hall was filled with nobles, courtiers, and murmuring attendants. The air was heavy with judgment. Emir Suleiman sat upon his throne, his face carved from stone. At his side, Amina stood veiled, her hands trembling inside her sleeves. "Kabir, son of no name, servant of ink and paper, you dare defile the honor of my house by laying claim to what is forbidden," Emir Suleiman said. Kabir raised his head. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "My lord, I have defiled nothing. I sought no throne, no crown, only the heart of your daughter, which was given freely, as mine was to her," Kabir replied. Gasps filled the chamber. Amina lifted her veil slightly, her eyes shining with tears. "Father, it is true, I love him. Punish me if you must, but do not condemn him for loving me," Amina said. The Emir's face darkened. His hands clenched the hilt of his ceremonial sword. A princess of Zaria, promised to the prince of Kano, speaking for a scribe. "You shame me, Amina." He turned to the guards. "Take him to the square. At sunset, his life will be ended. Let all who watch know the price of dishonor." Amina cried out, falling to her knees. "Father, mercy. Please, mercy." But the Emir turned his face away. That night, as preparation for Kabir's execution filled the palace, Safia lingered in the shadows, smiling at her triumph, but her victory was short-lived. One of the older attendants, who had always treated Safia like a sister, overheard her boasting. "Soon, the scribe will be gone, and perhaps the Emir will see my loyalty. Perhaps he will reward me. Perhaps Kabir will finally see me." But the word spread like wildfire among the servants, and soon whispers reached the ears of Amina. Summoning her courage, Amina confronted Safia in her chamber. "Why, Safia, you who ate at my table, who dressed me, who laughed with me, why would you betray me?" Safia's eyes flashed with bitterness. "Because you have everything, and still you wanted him. He could have been mine. But you, her words faltered as Amina's tears fell. But before Amina could respond, Emir Suleiman himself entered, having overheard the confession. The Emir's eyes narrowed. So it was not chance, it was treachery. Safia fell to her knees, stammering excuses, but the Emir's voice was cold. You sought to poison my house with envy. Leave Zaria before the sun sets. You will be gone, or the punishment for liars will be yours. And thus, Safia was cast out, her dreams crumbling into dust. The city square was filled with people. Drums beat a slow, heavy rhythm as Kabir was led forward, chains rattling. The executioner stood ready, his blade gleaming in the fading light. A hush fell as Kabir was forced to kneel. But just as the blade was raised, Amina burst through the crowd, her veil torn, her voice rising above the silence. Amina shouted, "Stop! If you kill him, then you must kill me too, for my heart belongs to him, and without him, I am already dead." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The people who loved Amina dearly began to murmur. Some even cried out, "Let them live. Love is no crime." The Emir's hand froze in the air. He looked at his daughter, kneeling beside Kabir, shielding him with her body. His heart wavered. The old chief imam of the palace stepped forward, his voice calm and wise. "My Emir, tradition is a shield, but when it becomes a cage, it breaks those it should protect. Your daughter's love is not a crime, but truth. Would you rather she live in a marriage of sorrow or stand in a love that strengthens her?" The Emir's gaze softened. For the first time, he saw not rebellion in Amina's eyes, but courage. Slowly, he lifted his hand. "Release him." The chains fell from Kabir's wrist. The crowd erupted in cheers. Amina threw herself into Kabir's hand, and for the first time, they embraced openly beneath the setting sun. The Emir's voice rang out once more. "Let it be known, Kabir, though born without noble blood, has proven himself rich in honor. If my daughter chooses him, then so be it. Their union shall not bring shame to Zaria, but strength." In the weeks that followed, Zaria rejoiced not in a political marriage, but in a union of hearts. Kabir and Amina were wedded in a ceremony filled with music, dance, and blessings. Kabir, once a scribe in the shadows, became a trusted advisor to the Emir, his words shaping the future of the city. Amina, radiant and free, stood beside him, her love a beacon to all. And as for Safia, she wandered far from Zaria, her name a whisper of warning that envy consumes itself in the end. Thus, the shadows in the Emir's courtyard were lifted, leaving behind a story that would be told for generations, of forbidden love, of betrayal and redemption, and of the courage to follow one's heart.